Tyler Reed wiped the sweat off his forehead and looked at the steel beam that was still hot on his workbench. Another 12-hour shift at the forge, and another stack of business contracts that didn't pay enough to keep the lights on. There wasn't much work or many questions out here on Verdon's Edge, a small mining colony at the edge of human space. Tyler didn't think twice when the surveyor came to his workshop door and offered him 3 times what he usually charged. The man was worried and kept fidgeting with his datapad like it might blow up. We discovered something in the deep digging tunnels. Things from the past. Very old. I need someone who knows about metals to look at it. Tyler took his gear without asking for any details. He needed new tools for his forge and credits were just credits. The surveyor took him 3 miles underground, past modern mining tools and into parts that looked like they hadn't been touched in thousands of years. The walls went from rough-cut rock to smooth surfaces with symbols Tyler had never seen before. After that, they got to the chamber and Tyler forgot how to breathe. It was huge. It was as big as a cathedral and was carved out of solid bedrock with such precision that it made human engineering look easy. But that wasn't what made him stop. In the middle of the room, hanging from some kind of glowing crystal, was a creature that looked like it came straight out of an old story. A dragon. It was easy to see that it was at least 60 feet long, with its wings folded against its sides and scales that sparkled like polished obsidian in the light of his flashlight. What the hell? Tyler moved closer, and the sound of his boots echoed in the quiet. The surveyor stayed close to the door, making it clear that he wanted to be somewhere else. The dragon wasn't moving, but it didn't look like it was dead. It looked like it was frozen in the middle of a roar, with its mouth open and teeth that looked like swords catching the light. It was wrapped in huge chains, each link thicker than Tyler's body. The metal was weird. It was darker than anything else he'd worked with and had more of those strange symbols on it. Tyler took out his portable scanner and ran it over the closest chain. The device made a chirping sound, which was strange. The composition of the alloy is unknown. Not known where it came from. Then something else happened that made Tyler's stomach turn. There were faint signs of life. "It's alive," he said, more to himself than to the surveyor. "This thing is still living." For the next hour he looked at every inch of the chains he could reach. The people who built this prison knew what they were doing. The metal was very heavy and made to last forever. But Tyler had worked with metals for 20 years and knew how they acted when they were under stress and how time changed even the strongest materials. He saw something that the builders never thought would happen. Little cracks. There are hairline cracks in a few of the chain links. Weak points had formed after thousands of years of constant stress. The prison was still standing, but it wouldn't last forever. Could be another 1,000 years or 10,000. But in the end, these chains would break. Tyler ran his hand over one of the cracks and could feel the tiny ridge under his fingers. He was already thinking about the problem like he would any other metallurgical problem. He could take advantage of these weaknesses if he had the right tools and the right plan. He could break these links. His brain was telling him to walk away. It was clear that this was something dangerous that had been locked up for a good reason. Whatever this thing was, an ancient civilization had worked very hard to keep it locked up forever. But Tyler had never been good at paying attention to the logical part of his brain. He saw a puzzle in those chains. He looked at the frozen thing and saw something that had been in pain for longer than people had been around. "Where?" "Conscious. Stuck." Tyler told the surveyor, "I have to go back. Going to need special tools. Could take weeks or even months." The surveyor seemed happy to be leaving. "Anything you need, man. Just send in the reports and bill the company." Tyler couldn't stop thinking about the chamber for the next 3 days. At night, he couldn't sleep because he was thinking of ways to make tools in his head. Cutting tools that could work with that strange metal. He pulled up every record in the database about ancient civilizations and found a few mentions of something called the Architects. A race that disappeared thousands of years ago, leaving behind ruins on many worlds. He began to collect things. Elements that are hard to find. Cutting tools with diamond tips. Plasma torches that have been changed from their normal specs. Tyler didn't care that his savings account was emptying quickly. This was more than just money. This was the kind of hard thing that only happens once in a lifetime. He came back to the room alone a week later. No one saw it. No questions. He had only his tools and a choice that would change everything. Tyler set up his tools, put his first cutting torch against the weakest link in the closest chain and turned it on. The metal fought back, but Tyler was patient. Hours went by. Then days. The first cut went deeper and the crack got bigger. And in the mind of that frozen creature, after hundreds of years of complete darkness and silence, something moved. 3 months. It took Tyler that long to break the first chain. 3 months of sneaking into the ruins after work, tired and running on coffee and willpower. Every night, he would turn on his modified plasma torch and chip away at the old metal, 1 millimeter at a time. People in the colony thought he was going crazy. His few friends stopped calling him. He was hurting his business by turning down jobs so he could spend time in that underground chamber. But Tyler couldn't stop. There was something about the creature that made him want to scratch it like an itch in the back of his head. Tyler was so tired that night that he almost missed it when the first chain finally broke. The metal broke with a sound like thunder, and the broken links fell to the stone floor. It felt like the noise would never stop echoing through the room. Then everything got quiet. Not enough noise. Tyler's hands shook as he stepped back and realized how alone he was down here. There were 3 miles of rock between him and the surface. No backup. He didn't have any weapons except for his plasma torch, which wouldn't be very useful against something that big. The creature's eye opened. Only the left eye slowly turned in its socket until it was looking at Tyler. It was the color of melted gold and had a pupil like a cat's but was much smarter. A lot more aware. Tyler felt that look go right through him, looking at every part of his soul in one quick look. He should have left. His instincts told him to drop his tools and run for the door. But he couldn't move. He was stuck staring at that burning golden eye. Then something hit his mind hard. Not words but pictures. Emotions. Ideas that didn't use language at all. Tyler gasped and held his head, trying to make sense of all the new information that was coming into his mind. He saw cities that made buildings look like sandcastles. Huge towers that reached up to the purple skies, built by people he didn't know. He saw this thing flying through space without a ship, with its wings spread out across the space between stars. He felt proud, like he was doing something good by protecting something valuable. The pictures then got darker. A test. Accusations that Tyler didn't get. Fear in the eyes of the people this creature had saved. Moving around in politics. Betrayal. The choice to imprison instead of execute, since even the people who accused them couldn't kill their former guardian. The links. The crystal prison that forms around living flesh. The mind is fading, but it never completely goes away. Years going by. 1,000 years. Empires came and went, but this creature stayed awake, trapped, and screamed silently into the void with no one to hear. Tyler dropped to his knees, crying. The loneliness was too much to handle. Thousands of years of being completely alone, with only memories and madness to keep you company as time crawled by. Tyler choked out, "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that happened to you." Another wave of pictures, this time softer. A name or something like it. Tyler's brain could only translate Vex. The star WIRMS were the first species in this part of space to travel between worlds. They had been protectors, guardians, and makers of worlds. Until the younger races were strong enough to be afraid of them. The architects had killed all the star WIRMS. Vex was the last one. The only one who lived. And the architects themselves had disappeared thousands of years ago, leaving behind only ruins and warnings about the dangerous beasts they had locked up. Tyler wiped his eyes and stood up, but his legs were shaky. "Your jailers are dead. Gone. For a long time now." He looked at the chains that were left. 6 more, each one as thick as the first. "But I can get this done. It might take some time, but I can get you out." His thoughts changed and they became a mix of curiosity and caution. Why would a person help? What did Tyler want back? Tyler said, "Nothing. Maybe I'm an idiot, but what they did to you wasn't right." No one. Tyler got into a routine over the next 4 months. He worked the day shift at the forge, slept for a few hours, and then went back to the chamber. Every night, Vex watched him with that golden eye that followed him. They started to talk to each other slowly and carefully. It wasn't exactly talking. More like talking about ideas and feelings. Tyler would think about his childhood on Earth and Vex would get it. Vex would show Tyler memories of flying through nebulas, and Tyler would feel completely free. The second chain snapped. Then the third. The crystalline prison broke and fell away more and more each time. Tyler could now clearly see Vex scales, which were black as night with hints of deep purple when the light hit them just right. It is both beautiful and scary at the same time. Tyler saw something new by the 5th chain. His tools worked better and cut faster. He didn't understand why for a week. Vex was somehow helping by using powers Tyler barely understood to break the bonds between the molecules in the metal. They were working as a team. Tyler had enough explosives to bring down a building the night the last chain broke. He carefully put them around the last links and then moved back to what he thought was a safe distance. The whole room shook when the bomb went off. The air was full of dust and debris. The trouble began 72 hours after Vex's roar shook the colony. The first military transport landed in the main square while Tyler was working in his forge and trying to act like everything was normal. Then 1 more. Then 5 more. Colony Administrator Hayes came to Tyler's door with 2 armed guards and a very unhappy look on his face. "Reed, we need to talk about your pet." Tyler said, "Not my pet," without looking up from the steel he was hammering. "And Vex isn't hurting anyone. It's a 60-foot alien thing that came from somewhere and can do things we don't know about. The Confederation wants it to be kept inside. Looked over. A lot of governments are telling us to give it to them right away." Tyler stopped hammering and looked Hayes in the eye. "Not going to happen. This isn't a request. There are ships of war in space. Not colony defense boats but real ones. You have 24 hours to bring that thing in, or they'll come get it themselves." Tyler sat on the steps of his workshop and put his head in his hands after Hayes left. What had he been thinking? That he could let go of an old alien dragon and everything would be fine? That the people in charge would just shake their heads and move on? A shadow came over him. Tyler didn't have to look up to see that Vex had come. The dragon mostly lived in the ruins, but it seemed to know when Tyler needed someone to talk to. It was becoming easier to read each other's minds, like a radio signal that was getting clearer. Tyler said out loud, "They want to lock you up again. Put you in a lab. Look at you like a specimen." He saw a lot of pictures in his head. Vex got it. There was also something else that Tyler had trouble understanding at first. Liability. Respect. A duty so deep that it went beyond species and culture. What's going on? Tyler got up and looked at the huge animal. "I just cut some chains. That's it. More pictures. People who worked for Vex followed strict rules. You owed them everything when they gave you back your life and saved you from something worse than death." Tyler had broken more than just chains. He had gotten back his consciousness, identity, and purpose. He had brought Vex back to life after centuries of living in a prison of the mind. "I don't want anything from you," Tyler said. "You are free now. Look for a safe place. There must be planets out there where no one will bother you." The answer was firm and final. Vex wouldn't go away. Couldn't go. If they didn't pay this debt, they would be betraying everything the star WRMS stood for. Vex had nothing left but honor. Tyler and honor. Tyler opened his mouth to argue, but then he closed it. He knew that kind of stubbornness. He looked in the mirror every morning and saw it. "Do you know you're just as bad as I am?" The feeling he got back was almost like laughter. On the 3rd day the bounty hunters came. 6 of them were Viridian mercenaries known for killing dangerous animals. They wore armor for battle and carried plasma rifles that could shoot through ship hulls. Cross, their leader, who had scars on her face, didn't bother to introduce herself. Contract with the government. 50,000 credits for the creature, and it should be alive if possible. Get out of the way, human. Tyler got in between them and the entrance to the ruins. "You really don't want to do this." Cross smiled. "We've killed things that are bigger and meaner than your lizard. Last chance to go. I tried to tell you." The mercenaries pushed past him and went into the ruins. Tyler thought of 30 in his head. The screaming started when he was only 20. Not exactly screaming in pain. More like the sound of soldiers who had been trained realizing they had made a huge mistake. 2 minutes later they ran out without their weapons, armor smoking and egos completely broken. Vex came up behind them and moved with a graceful ease that made the dragon even scarier. Tyler could tell that the creature hadn't hurt them. Just showed how much better they were than them. Cross looked at her melted rifle, then at Vex and finally at Tyler. "What the hell is that?" "That's Vex. And as I said, you really didn't want to do this." The mercenaries left without saying anything else. Before they even got on board, their ship was already starting up its engines. But word got out quickly. In less than a week, everyone in the industry knew about the human Smith and the alien dragon. A few people were very scared. Some people were interested. Some people saw a chance. On day 9, Mitchell Grant showed up. He was a freelance pilot who had lost his ship to debt collectors for a business. "I heard you might need some help. I also heard that you don't give in when governments start asking for things." Rebecca Torres, a former Marine in the Confederation who had been dishonorably discharged for refusing to shoot at civilian protesters, was next. "I thought you might need someone who knows how military people think." They came one by one. People who were outcasts, rebels, or idealists who had been beaten down by the system and were looking for a cause to fight for. In just 3 weeks, Tyler's little forge had turned into a temporary home for about 40 people who were willing to protect Vex from anyone who wanted to take the dragon away. Tyler tried to get them to go home. "This isn't your fight. You don't have to give me anything." Rebecca thought that was funny. "You let something go that should have stayed in chains just because you thought it was right. You didn't ask for permission or check to see if it was legal. That's the most human thing I've ever heard. We are not going." The crystal metal that came from Vex's prison became their secret weapon. Tyler had picked up the broken pieces and learned how to use them with Vex's help. The stuff was amazing. It was stronger than anything humans had made. He began making weapons, armor, and tools that shouldn't be possible. Vex showed him how to use the Star WRMS tools, which were a mix of human metalworking and something else. Focus of the mind. Intent turned into something real. Tyler would use his torch to heat the metal while Vex helped him understand its molecular structure. There was no way to explain the results. A sword that could cut through armor like it was paper. Shields that took in energy weapons and sent them somewhere else. Alloys that changed to deal with stress right away. Tyler's small forge was making tools that would have made Confederate engineers cry with jealousy. But the real army was on its way. Not bounty hunters or small security teams. Admiral Drake of the Confederation's Third Fleet had said that Vex was a threat to the stability of the galaxy. 30 warships were on their way and they had enough firepower to destroy the whole planet if they needed to. Tyler and Vex sat together in the ruins where they had met the night before the fleet got there. The dragon's huge head lay on the stone floor, its golden eyes half closed. It was at peace and comfortable for the first time in thousands of years. Tyler said softly, "I'm sorry. I thought I was letting you go. I guess I just put you in a different kind of prison." Vex's answer was kind and happy. The dragon had been alone for thousands of years, forgotten by time and left to rot in chains. Vex had a reason to live again. Had a friend. Someone had looked at a situation that seemed impossible and decided to fix it no matter what. That was worth the fight. "Okay then," Tyler said as he stood up and stretched. "Tomorrow we show them what happens when you put a person and a dragon in a corner. It should be interesting." He felt like he agreed with Vex. And maybe, just maybe, something that gives you hope. At dawn, the Confederation fleet stopped traveling faster than light. 30 warships, their hulls shining in the light of Verdun's two suns. Tyler stood on the roof of his forge and watched as they came one by one, like metal birds of prey circling their prey. Rebecca stood next to him and looked at the ships through her old military binoculars. "That's Drake's flagship, the Hammer of Justice. 10 years ago I would have been proud to be on that ship. It's time for me to fight it now." Tyler said, "There's still time to leave," but he knew she wouldn't. "Stop talking, Reed." An hour later, the message was sent out to every screen and speaker in the colony. The screens showed Admiral Drake's face, which was stern and unyielding. He looked exactly like what he was, a career military officer who had never questioned an order. "Attention, people of Verdun's Edge. You must give up the creature that is a Class 5 threat right away. You have until 12 hours to do what you need to do. If you resist, you will be met with overwhelming force. This is not up for discussion." Tyler walked to the colony's main communication center and opened a channel for people to send messages back. His hands were no longer shaking. He was surprised by that. Maybe he had moved on from fear to something else. "This is Tyler Reed, Admiral Drake. There is a name for the thing you're talking about. It's Vex. And no, you can't have them." Drake's face didn't change. "Mr. Reed, you have a possible weapon of mass destruction in your home. Stop before someone gets hurt. Vex has been free for almost 2 months now. Do you know how many people have been hurt? 6 mercenaries who left with nothing but hurt pride. Meanwhile, your Confederation has killed thousands of people to enforce laws that most of us never voted for. So who is really the threat here?" Tyler could see that Drake's jaw was getting tighter. "You have 11 hours and 58 minutes. The channel stopped working. For the next 8 hours, things were a mess. The forge in Tyler's house became a command center. Rebecca used what she knew about the military to build defensive positions. Mitchell set up emergency escape plans on every ship in the colony in case civilians needed to leave. Others strengthened buildings, set up medical stations, and got ready for the worst. Tyler worked at his anvil while Vex coiled up nearby. They had made something more than just talking. It was as if they were using one mind that was split between 2 bodies. Tyler would use a hammer and heat to shape the crystalline metal, while Vex would use focused thought to guide the molecular bonds. The end result was equipment that looked like it was made of magic and science. "How many can we make?" Rebecca asked, looking at a blade that was forming and glowing from within. Tyler said, "Not enough. We have about 40 people with weapons that can't be used against 30 warships. The math doesn't add up. Math has never stopped people before." Vex's presence touched Tyler's mind and showed him pictures of the Star WRMS at their best. They had been warriors when they needed to be and had protected younger species. But they had never fought because they hated each other, only because they had to. Vex didn't want to kill if he could help it. These soldiers from the Confederation were just following orders and doing what they thought was right. Tyler said, "We'll do our best. But if it comes down to your life or theirs, I'm always going to choose you." The attack started at hour 12 just like they said it would. Drake sent down 3 battalions of ground troops, more than 300 soldiers in powered armor with air support. They thought it would be easy to fight a small group of colonists and one big creature. They got something else entirely. Vex met them at the edge of the colony. The dragon had gotten stronger over the past few weeks, when it had been fed and rested after being trapped for thousands of years. Vex's roar was so loud that it broke windows and made soldiers fall over. The plasma breath of the dragon cut through the ground, not killing anyone but making walls of molten rock that stopped the organized advance. Tyler and the defenders attacked them from all sides. Rebecca's tactical knowledge made untrained civilians into a strong guerrilla force. Tyler's weapons cut through military armor like it was paper. Shields absorbed plasma fire and sent the energy back at the attackers. But Vex was the one who really blew them all away. The dragon moved like a shadow in water, and its wings sent out electromagnetic pulses that made targeting systems stop working. When soldiers tried to surround them, Vex would jump over their formations and cover distances that should have been impossible. And the dragon never killed anyone the whole time. Yes, weapons are disabled. Definitely destroyed cars. But every soldier who fell got back up, scared and hurt but still alive. Mitchell's voice was crackling over the radio. "Tyler, they're pulling back. All 3 battalions are pulling back." But there was no party. Tyler knew this was just the first round. Drake would get worse. The Admiral had brought enough firepower to destroy the planet, and they had just humiliated his ground troops. An hour later, the bombing began. Not aimed at the colony itself but at the land around it. Shots to warn. Showing them what would happen if they kept fighting. The mountains turned to ash. Forests disappeared. The message was clear: give up or everything will burn. Tyler was tired and sweaty as he stood in his forge and watched the destruction through the window. They had won the first battle, but how many more could they win? Vex was strong but not unbeatable. And these people who had joined his cause had families and lives that they were willing to risk for a principle. "Maybe I should just leave," Vex's mind said. "This is my cross to bear. Not theirs." Tyler said out loud, "Don't you dare." They wanted to be here. Every one of them chose to stand up for what is right, even when it's hard. That's what people do. We're dumb and stubborn and don't know when to stop. Rebecca came through the door. "Tyler, we have a problem. Drake is getting his ships ready to attack the colony from space. He has finished with warning shots." Tyler's stomach felt like ice. They had gone too far with the Admiral. Drake would rather kill them all than admit he lost. A lot of civilians who had nothing to do with this fight would die. How much time do we have? Maybe 30 minutes until they are in place. Tyler's mind was racing. They needed something huge. Something that would change everything. He looked at Vex, the crystalline metal that was still lying around his forge, and the device he had been secretly building for weeks. It wasn't done yet. He would need more work, maybe weeks. But they didn't have any days. They had half an hour. Tyler told everyone to get to the deep shelters. Right now. Don't argue, just do it. What are your plans? Something really dumb. Tyler was already getting tools together, and his hands were moving on their own. "Vex and I are going to the center of the planet. We're going to finish what I started." "That's killing yourself. Just the heat." "I know." Tyler looked her in the eye. "But it's the only thing we can do. Now leave. Make sure everyone is safe." Rebecca thought for a moment, then nodded and ran. Tyler picked up his gear and got on Vex's back. The dragon's scales were warm and full of energy and determination when he touched them. They had set each other free in that room below ground. Now they would either save everyone or die trying. Vex flew into the air, wings spread wide, taking them both to the planet's molten core, and a risky bet that would change everything. The heat was too much to handle. Tyler's protective suit was made to keep him safe in very hot or very cold weather, but this was something else. They were now 5 miles down, diving through old lava tubes toward the center of the planet. The air itself seemed to be on fire. Vex didn't seem to care. The dragon's scales soaked up the heat like solar panels soak up sunlight. Tyler could feel Vex getting stronger through their mental link. With every mile they went down, Vex became more alive. Tyler gasped, "Almost there," and looked at his scanner. He had been working on the device for weeks, but it was still heavy and not finished. When he first thought of it, it seemed like a great idea. Use the clear metal from Vex's prison to make a broadcast array. Something strong enough to cross star systems. The problem was that it needed a power source that humans had never made before. It needed the core of the planet itself. With Vex's help, Tyler might have had a 10% chance of making it work before the heat or radiation killed him. He had better odds before. They broke through into a huge cave, and Tyler's breath caught even though the air was hot. A sea of molten metal that shone like a new star lay in front of them. This was the core of the planet. The walls of the cave pulsed with geological forces that had been building for billions of years, and rivers of liquid fire flowed across the floor. Tyler said, "This will do," trying to sound more sure of himself than he really was. 20 minutes until Drake's attack. 20 minutes to save them all. He slid off of Vex's back and began to put the device together with hands that were shaking. The pieces of the crystalline metal fit together like a puzzle. He shaped each one during those long nights at his forge. Vex helped by carefully guiding the molecular bonds, making connections that Tyler's tools alone couldn't make. There are 10 minutes left. The device was taking shape, a sphere of clear metal about 3 feet across, with patterns that looked like they were moving and changing in the firelight. Tyler took out the last piece, a shard from Vex's original prison. This was the piece that had the strongest psychic imprint. Tyler said, "This is going to hurt. For both of us. We're going to tell half the galaxy about your memories and everything they did to you." Vex's answer was calm and accepting. It was important to tell the truth. It was wrong for the architects to make the star WYRMS look like monsters. They should be remembered as they really were. Tyler put the last piece in place. The device came to life with a hum, getting its power from the planet's core through channels of crystalline metal. Energy crackled across its surface, building up to something big. 5 minutes to go. Tyler put his hands on the sphere and felt it burn through his gloves. Vex pressed close, adding the dragon's mental power to the broadcast. They turned it on together. The effect happened right away and was very strong. All communication channels in Confederation space suddenly lit up with signal. Everything, from ships to planets to personal devices to military networks, got the same transmission at the same time. Vex's memories, unedited and real. Billions of beings from dozens of species suddenly felt what Tyler had felt in that underground room. They saw the star WRMS for what they really were, ancient protectors who had kept younger races safe, turned hostile worlds into gardens, and stopped wars before they could start. They were proud to serve and happy to see civilizations grow and thrive under their care. Then came the backstabbing. The architects are afraid of things that are stronger than they are. Political meetings where fear was stronger than thankfulness. The choice to get rid of the star WYRMS, not because they had done anything wrong, but because they might do something wrong in the future. The hunts. The wars. Star WYRMS are dying all over the place, not to win but just to get away. Families torn apart. Kids died. The new galactic order wiped out an entire species because they were in the way. And Vex's time in jail. Awake through every moment, feeling like centuries have gone by with only memories and madness. Hearing the architects themselves eventually fall to time and younger races, knowing that everyone who could free them was gone. The total hopelessness of knowing that freedom would never come. Until a person with a plasma torch and too much stubbornness decided that some chains needed to be broken. Tyler felt the transmission burning through his mind. It was too much for him to handle even though Vex was helping him. He could feel the broadcast reaching billions and then millions of people. Every living thing within range felt a small part of what Vex had gone through. Admiral Drake staggered in his command chair with his hand on his temple as he looked up at the sky. His crew was going through the same thing as him. The countdown for the bombing had stopped. Weapons officers sat still at their posts, tears streaming down their faces, and their hands wouldn't press the firing buttons. The same thing happened all over the fleet. 300 ships with 30,000 crew members all of a sudden knew what they were about to destroy. Not a monster. Not a gun. A person who lived. The last living person who saw a genocide that history has forgotten. First, Drake's tactical officer spoke, his voice shaking. "Sir, I can't do this. I can't kill that being no matter what." Another officer got up. "Me neither. You can court-martial me if you want." Then another one. And one more. Half of the bridge crew had refused orders within 5 minutes. All of the ships in the fleet were saying the same thing. A quiet kind of mutiny. The kind where soldiers just said no and were ready to deal with the results. Drake sat in his command chair, feeling the weight of what he had almost done. He had said that Vex was a danger to the stability of the galaxy. But the real danger was making the same mistakes as the architects and letting fear and power decide what is right and wrong. He made a way for the planet's surface to get through. "Tyler Reed, this is Admiral Drake. The fleet is no longer on alert. The bombing is called off." Tyler heard those words through his communicator 5 miles below the surface and fell over. The device turned off because it had finished its job. Vex caught him before he hit the ground, holding Tyler's body gently in claws that could cut through the hulls of spaceships. Tyler, who was barely awake from being tired and hot, whispered, "We did it. You're free. This time you're really free." It took an hour to get back to the surface. The colony was in chaos, but it was the good kind of chaos. People were happy, sad, and hugging each other. The Confederation fleet was still in space, but it was no longer a threat. Some ships were already leaving, and their crews didn't want to be a part of what came next. The political fallout lasted for weeks. The Confederation Council held emergency meetings. They gave Vex terms: limited freedom, regular check-ins, and limits on where the Dragon could go. The kind of freedom that wasn't really freedom at all. Tyler turned down every offer before Vex could even say anything. You can't lock someone up for thousands of years and then act like you're being nice by giving them a longer leash. Nothing but real freedom. The Council had no other choice. People in the galaxy had changed their minds. People had felt Vex's thoughts. Now they knew the truth. If they tried to contain the Dragon, they would be admitting that they were no better than the architects. Tyler sent a counteroffer from Vex. The Dragon would stay with people as a partner, not as a prisoner or a weapon. Working together as equals. Teaching one another. Once, the Star WIRMS were protectors. Vex could be that way again, but only if he wants to. 3 months later, the deal was signed. Tyler's forge became a neutral place where human and alien techniques came together. Scientists came to learn how Tyler worked with the crystal metal. Vex told them some things and kept others to himself. Information is shared freely, not stolen. Tyler would work at his anvil on quiet nights while Vex coiled nearby. They were both making things that shouldn't be possible. The life debt stayed, but it changed into something better. Not required. Being friends. Rebecca asked him once if he wished he hadn't done it. You could have just left that room. You could have told someone else what you found and let them take care of it. Tyler thought about it while the hammer was still. Maybe. But Vex would still be in chains, and I would just be another blacksmith making normal things. Sometimes the best thing to do is to change everything about your life. Vex's presence made him feel warm and happy. A person who saw chains and thought they needed to be broken gave the Dragon back its life. Who looked at a situation that seemed impossible and said no. That stubbornness, that refusal to give in to authority just because it said it knew better, and that willingness to stand alone if necessary. That was what had set Vex free. And that's what the Dragon decided to keep safe now. Freedom doesn't mean being by yourself. It's about deciding who to stand next to. And sometimes, even though it doesn't make sense and isn't likely, a human smith and an alien dragon end up exactly where they need to be. Together.